Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started. A few folks might join us as we work through this presentation. This is the sort of the launch event for the Greening Jewish Institutions Initiative. And actually, I will just share in a moment if everybody could put their, just in the chat, your name, your institution, and why are you here? What do you hope to accomplish? So if everybody could put that in the chat, that would be great. Give everybody a second. Okay. So, thank you, everybody, and welcome to everybody. And I'm Moshe Kornfeld. I'm the director of Colorado Jewish Climate Action. I also work as the Chazan of Congregation Rodef Shalom. So I have two roles in the community, and we'll jump. Before we get started with our agenda, it would be great to have a moment to hear from Dan Leshem at Jewish Colorado. Jewish Colorado is partnering with us in sort of this in this initiative. So I want to turn it over for a brief welcome from Jewish Colorado.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry if it is difficult to hear me. We ended up having a dentist office mishap with my son this morning, who is still a little bit loopy from the laughing gas. But it is my great pleasure to work with Moshe and the team at Colorado Jewish Climate Alliance, who have been doing amazing work that's so crucial to the entire community and to the world. And thank you all for coming, and thank you, Moshe, for organizing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again. And as we go through, if you want to, pop questions into the chat. I don't know if I sort of play this presentation, if I can see them, but we will definitely sort of check back in and answer any questions as we go along. The agenda for today is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to talk a little bit about Colorado Jewish Climate Action, some of the programs we have going on, and then we're going to go a little bit into some of the details of what we've been working on with the Greening Jewish Institutions initiative. We have been really trying to learn the Energize Denver Ordinance. So this is specifically for organizations in Denver. There are, for large buildings, there are pretty buildings over 25,000 square feet. There are pretty aggressive benchmarks that you have to meet. And for buildings that are between 5,000 and 25,000 square feet, there's another set of regulations. So we're going to talk about the work that we've been doing to get to know and understand that ordinance and to be able to help institutions comply with that ordinance. We also want to talk about a community solar project. This would likely be rooftop solar, and then just sharing information and communicating with each other to the benefit of everyone. And then at the end, we have a survey that we would love you to complete with information about your organizations, and so that we can learn a little bit more about you and about your goals. So that's what we are going to be doing in the next, hopefully 50 minutes. So let's get into it. So Colorado Jewish Climate Action. Um, our Colorado Jewish Climate Action seeks to bring climate action to the forefront of the Jewish communal agenda. Working with secular interfaith and frontline allies, we pursue just solutions to the climate crisis. So that's what we are doing. We have about we have a growing group of core volunteers that we work on 3 different committees. We have the Greening Jewish Institutions Committee, an education committee. It's actually an education, outreach, and youth empowerment committee, and thirdly, we have our advocacy committee, and so that's if you have people who want to get involved, and then we're building out other programs for the community as well. So. Just one idea. There's the famous story of Choni, the circle maker, who and this is from the Talmud in the Babylonian Talmud in Ta'anit 23a. This is the whole story of where Choni was praying for rain, and he prayed, and then too much rain came, or too little, and then too much rain, and you wanted to get it just right. The rains of blessings. I feel like we're very much living in a time when we're having either too little or too much rain, where we're oscillating between drought and floods seemingly all the time. So this feels familiar to our modern experience right now. And then there's this story about Choni who, passed a man planting a carob tree, and Choni said, this tree is not going to bear fruit for 70 years, and why are you doing this? And the man said, just there were the world that I was born into was full of carob trees. So my ancestors, just as my ancestors planted for me, I too am planting for my descendants. And I feel like the work that we do here at Colorado Jewish Climate Action is in that spirit, right? We received a world that was, life-sustaining, and I want to pass that world on to my ancestors and my descendants, and not my ancestors. So that's sort of some of the wisdom, that Torah wisdom, that inspires us here at CJCA. And here I just wanted to share for a moment about some of the programs we've been running over the past year. On the left, that's a picture of the Colorado Jewish Climate Summit that we held last February at the Hebrew Educational Alliance. So that was a great day of learning and coming together. On the top right, we held a lobby day also at the end of February, and we working with Together Colorado, one of our interfaith partners. We brought 70 people to the Capitol to let our representatives know that they need to make sure that our state is engaging in bold climate action. And then just a few Sundays ago, we held a bike ride, a climate action bike ride, to spotlight a bike network system that our friends at Bike Street Denver have put together. Basically, a low stress bike route, because we all know that biking can sometimes be pretty stressful on the street. So this is an organization that is identifying really low stress bike routes to be able to get around in a comfortable sort of way. So anybody from your kids to to grandparents can get around where they need to go by bike. So and there are many other programs, but those are just a few samples of the programs we've been running over the past year. And then I want to talk a little bit about some upcoming programs that we have before we get into some of the details of the Greening Jewish Institutions work. We are rolling out the Colorado Jewish Climate Corps, and this is a leadership training program. It's basically monthly meetings with top experts, and we're almost done. We're about to release the roster of the speakers, and they're really amazing speakers that we're putting together. Some topics that we are going to address is spiritual adaptation, how to do advocacy, climate communication, and we're recruiting a teen cohort and an adult cohort. So if you know any folks who want to learn how to get involved in climate action work, send them our way, and we'd love to have a group of folks working together to learn about this work. And then at the end, we're also going to have some funds available for some climate action projects. Another important project that we are rolling out is we have compiled a list of climate action B'nai Mitzvah projects, and also we have developed an experiential workshop to go along with that list. So if you want to bring that program to your congregation or community, again, please be in touch. We'd love to have one of our educators come to your community to share this lesson, the workshop, and this list of B'nai Mitzvah projects. That's the work of our Education and Youth Empowerment Committee. Our Advocacy Committee is working on two areas. One is we are working on ozone pollution legislation. We worked on this last year, but we got a very, very weak bill passed. So we're trying to, Colorado sadly has some really bad ozone pollution that impacts our respiratory health, and especially for those who are living near industrial areas. So this is something that we really want to address and we're working on. And also we are working with a coalition on a ballot measure to ban fracking in the state of Colorado by 2030. So that's those are the key aspects of our advocacy work. And then now we've gotten to, that's a little bit of an intro to who we are and some of the work that we are doing. And this brings us to the Greening Jewish Institutions Initiative. This program that we're imagining has 4 different components. One is to help, or currently we'll see where it goes. One is to help help organizations comply with the Energize Denver Ordinance. A second component is a cooperative solar and EV charging project. 3 is hopefully creating a platform to share information between institutions. So, experiences, what's worked, what's, been more challenging, recommendations for contractors, just so that the community can benefit from the information that individual synagogues and other organizations have gathered. And lastly, we want to make sure to be able to share information about upcoming rebates and incentives with organizations that could benefit from them. So that's the sort of the 25,000 square foot, 25,000 foot, not square foot, overview of the program. So let's just take a moment to kind of take a breath and see if anybody has any questions so far. Just take a moment to stop the share and okay. Okay, so let's continue with the and I also, in addition, right, so this is our Greening Jewish Institutions Initiative sort of large scale agenda, and the group that's doing this work, I'm the director of Colorado Jewish Climate Action, and I sort of lead this committee, and this committee has Jewish community professionals. We have a solar installer on the team. We have a number of energy efficiency experts. We have an architect. We have an engineer and other community members. So we've definitely are trying to gather people who have sort of experience working in the Jewish community, as well as people who have experience in energy efficiency and solar work and the types of projects that a lot of you are going to need to do over the upcoming years. So that's the group that's working on this. Now, the Energize Denver Ordinance. If you have, especially if you have large buildings, I'm assuming that you are familiar with this by this point, right? It was passed in 2016, and it requires greenhouse gas emission reductions in existing buildings, commercial buildings, and multifamily buildings. And the focus has really been on these buildings that are 25,000 square feet and larger, because they are where the bulk of the square footage, that's where you can get the most bang for your buck. The ultimate goal is to be sort of emissions free for all buildings in, Denver by 2040, but this the initial work is a series of benchmarks and goals that have you have to meet your 2024 goals, your 2027 goals, and your 2030 goals, and so that's specifically for buildings with that are 25,000 square feet and larger. Other buildings also have other requirements as well. And basically, the core components of complying, you have to get benchmarked, which basically is to take stock of your current energy use and to start, tracking it using the Energy Star portfolio manager. You have to, one important thing that you really want to make sure that you have an accurate target for 2030, because some buildings are simple, but others have different uses, and you want to make sure that you are properly benchmarked, that your targets are accurate. We have electrification feasibility reports. Some of you might be familiar with this, but this is basically you pay a company to analyze, if electrification is feasible or for a particular unit, and the city actually has, will pay for these electrification feasibility reports. A larger scale, you can complete an energy audit, create an energy efficiency plan, identify rebates and incentive programs, and then monitor and track your progress. Those are the basic components of what compliance includes for the Energize Denver Ordinance. And one thing that we've done is we've actually created an Energize Denver guide. There are a lot of there's information online, but this is really sort of a easy to read guide. And actually, I'll stop for a moment and we'll email this later, but also I'd love to put this in the chat now so you can just get a sense of what we are talking about. We've spent a lot of time this summer working and putting this together, so hopefully it will be useful to you. Let me just. It's a PDF document. So this is, I just put it into the chat, and that will it's a very kind of easy to follow step-by-step guide to some of the key components of complying with the Energize Denver ordinance. And just what, we won't go through all the details. There's a lot of details, but I want to go through a few of the key aspects that we want to highlight. One is energy efficiency goals. If you have a large building, you should have benchmarked your building's energy use since starting in 2019. And then there are predefined 2030 energy goals defined by your building type, for example, an office or a hotel. And then you just kind of, they will, so this means that, if the goal is 30% reduction of energy for all buildings, if you have an old, really inefficient building, you have a lot more work to do than if you have a newer building that is a lot more energy efficient. So your goals are going to be the same, no matter if you're, let's say, an office building, your goals will be the same no matter when your office building was built or how efficient it currently is. So the older buildings are going to be responsible for a lot more work. Also, in the Energy Star Program Manager, which all the larger buildings will have used, smaller organizations can also use that, and it can sort of sync up with your Excel energy bills, and you can use that as a tool to monitor your energy usage and figure out how you can reduce your energy use. So in here, this is a key point, and this is a key point that I really want to emphasize. So the EUIs, the energy, now I'm totally blanking on what EUI energy. Somebody help me here. I'm blanking on what the EUI stands for, but it's essentially your targets. And it's for single-use buildings. So you have a multi-purpose building. If you have like a synagogue with a daycare, you have to sort of create a weighted average for those three for the different types of buildings. Or you have a Jewish community center that has a theater and a gym and a school. So it's going to be a weighted average of the three largest building types. And also, there's special things if you have like a pool, or if so one thing that's really important is to make sure that your targets are accurate. And one key date that might be a little bit scary is that basically you have to submit your target adjustment, your data adjustment, by October 1st to have it considered for your 2024 interim target. So if you have a building that is not properly benchmarked and you don't have the proper goal, you will want to look at that sooner rather than later to make sure that you're properly classified. And lastly, you probably know this as well, but they've created the fines. They've made the fines really exorbitant, and the reason they've done this is to make it so that the cost of compliance is lower than the cost of the fines. So the cost of the fines can run into like the hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of dollars. So basically, really to make it so that it's not worthwhile to just take on the fine. So that's really important to know, that especially for buildings over 25,000 square feet, that you really must do this work, and doing it sooner rather than later is going to be to your benefit. And then there are all sorts of incentives that are available, right, to do this. In the guide, we've collected a whole bunch of the incentives. There are, Excel incentives, there's city, state, and federal level incentives, and we've broken them down by solar, HVAC, lighting, EV charging, and general electrification. We will continue updating the guide as we go forth, but we have a sort of a pretty good list of the main incentives that are currently available for electrification. And these incentives and rebates are not only for buildings that are over 25,000 square feet. They are for all commercial buildings, or even at this point. So you should definitely look into that. Okay, so again, I now have. I'm going to check the chat for a moment. We have. Okay, so. Okay, energy. Okay, so before we move on to the cooperative solar project, I again want to just take a moment to check in and see if anybody has any questions or comments they want to share before we sort of talk about the cooperative solar project. All right, so we will move forward with the presentation. So that's the work that we've been trying to do with the Energize Denver Ordinance. The main goal there is to provide resources and connections to help organizations with compliance. For example, we have reached out. We've had a series of meetings with folks in the city office where they are that are running this program, and we could, if people are interested, have a meeting with the compliance officer where organizations can ask direct questions. And if we get a group of folks together, they aren't willing to meet with individual organizations, but if we can get a group of 4 or 5 different organizations, they will take a meeting with us and answer the questions that we have about compliance. So moving forward to the next part of this project, cooperative solar and EV charging project. So here we'd like to see if we could work on a community solar project. And basically the idea here is that if we could get a series of organizations together, we could approach solar contractors together and try to figure out if we could get a bulk deal for a solar project, and that would hopefully reduce costs and sort of streamline the process of getting rooftop solar for Jewish community buildings. And so this, right, so this is right, well, hopefully we'd be able to sort of have a little bit of the benefit of doing things at a larger scale. We would like to open this up to all institutions that own their buildings. And then our goal is to act as the project coordinator on this, whereas for the Energize Denver ordinance, we're mostly trying to give you the information that, for the projects that you will have to manage on your own. We are seeking to take a more active role in coordinating a cooperative solar and EV charging project. And in order to get going, we will need you to share with us a minimum of 12 months of Excel bills. And basically, right, what we're going to do is we have a Google Drive, and you can just upload those bills to the Google Drive that we provide you a link, and hopefully we can go from there. Even more than 12 months would be even better. For all of this work, having access to those utility bills is key to having good information. So that's sort of an overview of the project, and we will hopefully, gauge interest and see who wants to move forward. One particular program that I want to highlight, and this is if you are in the city of Denver, there's a program for the Renewable and Resilience Incentive Program, which basically will cover up to 100% of the cost for installation for solar, EV chargers, and possibly battery storage. We will follow up with sort of a link to that to that program. And there's a two-part application program. One is sort of a general interest form. It's very simple, and that is you can submit that on an ongoing basis. And then there's part two of the application, which you would have to have more of a plan for kind of, have some numbers from a solar installer, and they review those 4 times a year. So the next review date is September 7th, which for Jewish organizations will probably not happen here, but December 7th would be the next one. So you might, and I really would encourage everybody to apply for this, because if 2 or 3 of the Jewish community organizations could get approved for this program, that would be really exceptional and would be exciting. So we will follow up with the link to that program, but it's something that I'm hoping all of the organizations that are on this call will consider applying to. And then also one thing in the past, right, there's been a solar tax credit for a long time, but part of the Inflation Reduction Act was to make it easier for nonprofits to take advantage of that. And so that, instead of, having to file tax returns, nonprofits can now get reimbursed through direct payment from the federal government for the tax credit. But they haven't totally rolled out how that's going to work. So tax-exempt entities can take advantage of this tax credit, but more information is supposed to come out by the end of the year. So we will make sure to pass that on to you when we know it, exactly how to take advantage of this direct payment option for getting the 30% tax credit for installing solar. So yeah, well, I'm gonna, again, that's the basis of the solar project. So I'm just gonna look at the chat real quick. We will send the link today. Yes. Okay, we would love to send with this. We were playing. That was definitely too so. Okay. So yes, and Stephanie, we would love to. I will follow up with you. In the next day or so, just to see where you are in that process and see if we can provide any additional support. Those are the 2 main components of the project. The final sort of aspect that we're developing and we will continue to work on is a listserv and sharing platform. We would love to create. We're working on creating a platform for sharing information. It would be great if organizations can share information about the projects they're working on, and so that it could benefit all the other organizations in the community. And in addition to that, we really want to have a way to share information with you about, there's so many new programs and so many new opportunities. We want to make sure, your job is to run your organizations and not sort of be looking for the newest rebates from energy efficiency rebates. So we're going to try to keep track of that and make sure that you know about those opportunities. So also, right, we want to make sure that people can benefit from shared knowledge about successes and failures, contractor recommendations, whatever information would benefit everybody. So one other thing I want to share, and I want to emphasize that the program I'm going to describe right now is different than what we're doing. This is from Adama. Adama is a national organization that's doing some of this type of work nationally, and they have what's called the Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition. And this is distinct from CJCA. It's a complementary program. And if you want to get more information, you can go to adama.org/coalition, and they have some financial support that they can provide to organizations. They are making available to some on a limited basis interest-free loans of up to $100,000 with a 5-year payback. So some of the challenges, right, especially now as interest rates are getting really high, that could be very important for being able to embark on some of these energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. And they also offer matching grants of up to $10,000. And then they will also, they have ongoing info sessions. So if you want to go and learn more about that program, they have an info session tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and also on September 7th at 10:30 a.m. also Mountain Time. And the last thing I want to share, they've applied for a federal, to be sort of the federal government is sort of giving sort of grants to some larger nonprofits, and that with the hope that, or part of this, and that they will then redistribute those funds, or they're in charge of allocating funds to other nonprofits. So Adama has applied to be a primary recipient for grant funds for nonprofits, and if you are interested, it's called Renew America's Nonprofits. That's the program. And in the chat, Carly is going to put in a link to an interest form. They haven't received the grant yet. They're hoping they will, and they should learn soon. But they're getting information from organizations that are interested in being sub-grantees. So I wanted to make sure to share that information, and Carly has now put the link, the very long link to that program. But if you want to sort of just express interest, and that's another source of financial support that's coming from Adama. So with that, okay, so I'm gonna again take one more moment here to stop the share. Okay, so any questions before we move forward? So what we
Moshe, this is Andrew.
Yeah.
May I speak a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and some of you folks probably know me or have heard my name before. I've been involved in multiple Jewish organizations over the past many years, and I've done solar proposals for some of the organizations that are on this call. The biggest stumbling block has always been that the main incentive for people to go solar in America has been tax advantages. And when you're tax exempt, that's been a problem. The Inflation Reduction Act introduces language that says that nonprofits should receive the 30% equivalent amount of a tax credit, even though they don't pay taxes. But until those rules are promulgated, it's hard for me or for your tax advisement team to say exactly how and when you're going to get that money. And furthermore, it's still not as good as a commercial entity that is taxable buying solar, because that entity would receive the 30% tax credit and depreciation expense as well. So, since we have everybody together here right now, I want to introduce the idea that third-party ownership, which is special purpose, limited to just the, can be limited to just the purpose of acquiring the solar, harvesting the tax benefits, and then surrendering it to the institution, be strongly, strongly considered. I had been asked previously about a massive offsite solar solution, but the larger the solution, the less likely we are to be able to gain any set and known benefits from Xcel Energy. So keeping things at or below 500 kilowatts actually fits into their program well. And for many of you, there's even rebate money available from Xcel. We don't want to leave that money on the table. And if we can, through a few $100s or even a few $1,000s of legal and accounting fees, put a special purpose partnership together for each institution, the tax advantages are about 48% of the cost of each of these projects. So it is really a massive leverage that can be applied to making each of these projects a lot easier. Now, of course, that can't compete with free. If you're lucky enough to get a grant that makes it completely free, great, go for it. But on the assumption that that's not going to be available for most institutions, third-party ownership for a specific number of years, typically 6 or 7 years, takes care of all that, and would be much, much easier to manage than hoping and waiting on grant money.
Thank you, Andrew. And, it may seem a little bit intimidating, but part of the role that we're hoping to play is to sort of take some, to try to solve some of those challenges and sort of present the solutions to you in a way that's easy to work with. So our goal is to do some of the back of the house work so that you don't have to do that for in the rooftop solar project. There's two more things that we would like to do in this meeting. The first is I want to share, and actually, Dan, we do have sort of next steps for the solar project, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we have a survey that we want to share with you. We would love for you to, we just put it in the chat. And this is really will help us get a sense of where you're coming from, what are your goals. If you could fill out the survey now, that would be great. If you want to sort of take it back and spend a little time with it, that also works. But what I'll do now is we'll just have we'll go to the slide that talks about sort of next steps, and then we'll have a little bit of time to sort of for some discussion. So next steps for this project. One is please do fill out this survey. This is going to be really, really helpful for us to figure out where to go next. We've spent most of the summer sort of learning a ton about the Energize Denver Ordinance and figuring out how to structure this project. But in terms of where to go from here, we really need to hear from you and what would be most beneficial for you, and especially for the solar project and for but actually for all these projects in general. If you could upload, we will send a follow-up with to you, and if you could upload 12 months of utility bills by, it would be great by the middle of next month, if possible, or at least, let us know that you're interested. And then, that's really the key information that will allow us to take the next steps. If we can go with these energy bills to start to talk to folks who are solar contractors or things like that, we can really move forward once we have your utility bills. And actually actual copies would be amazing. Another thing that would really help us, and we will follow up, is if you can give CJCA access to your Energy Star portfolio manager, so we can have understand your buildings better and help to help you move forward. Another possible next step that we could do is to meet with the Energize Denver Ordinance Compliance Officer, and then continue to have conversations and meetings, perhaps every few months to touch base and have sort of in-person, or like face-to-face conversation about how to move forward with these greening projects. So that's what we have. I would love to see what questions people have, and would love to hear from you.
Moshe, if I could just jump in for a question and clarification.
Of course.
It seems like the next steps you propose kind of cover lots of different areas you'd like to help out in. They don't seem specifically tailored to solar, and they don't seem specifically tailored to Energize Denver. So I think it might be helpful if you could kind of spell out what the next steps are for each one independently, or just to state that you're more in an information gathering phase and you haven't crafted specific plans or interventions around either of those two things completely yet.
So in terms of the solar, that's where it's most clear cut is to get those 12 months of energy bills. That, or more than that, it would even be great. The 12 months of energy bills is also helpful for the other things as well, just to get a sense of what's going on in a building and what are some baselines. But specifically for the solar, that's that's absolutely the next step. And really, if an organization can provide us with those 12 months or more of their Excel bills, that really gives us an indication that they are interested and want to move forward, and we will sort of be able to go from there. In terms of the Energize Denver ordinance, the next step is really to make sure that your building is properly benchmarked. That's the real, because you need to make sure that what your goals are, and then you want to start to come up with a plan. So the electrification feasibility reports for specific sort of HVAC systems or boiler systems, or a more comprehensive energy audit. So in terms of energy audits, you can get Excel to do, an energy audit. Excel tends to be a cheaper option, but they also are somewhat cookie cutter. Or you could, find a company that that is doing. That is can do a more sophisticated version of an energy audit, and I'm happy to try to I know one company that for example, you might want to explore is Iconergy. So Iconergy is a company that really focuses on helping buildings, especially commercial buildings, with working, they can identify low-hanging fruits, making sure all the systems are properly calibrated to save energy, and then from sort of just making sure that the systems are right to much larger, consulting with larger energy efficiency projects. So those are really for the Energize Denver ordinance. I would say first is making sure that you're properly benchmarked. Then for that we can set up a meeting with the Energize Denver compliance officer, and then moving from there, getting information from either an energy audit or the electrification feasibility report. So I think, those are the next steps.
I think that our goals here are like 2/3-fold. So like, on the one hand, we're just trying to bring everybody together, and Moshe talked about some of these shared projects. So I'd say that that's like goal number one is like bringing these different communal organizations together for the potential of working on some shared projects. And then number two is kind of like the individualized plan. I think that the survey is going to help with that. And I think that that kind of goes back to the information sharing stage, is that we need to know information about the buildings in order to create individual plans for each of the buildings in order to comply with Energize Denver ordinance. And also that will feed back into some of the solutions that might be more collaborative or cooperative solutions. And then the reason I said threefold is that the third kind of part of this is serving as an intermediary to help to connect all of your institutions and organizations with, the city and county of Denver, with potential contractors, with resources, even like Adama or the grants that can help you in order to accomplish some of these goals. So I hope that, laying it out in those three different ways provides a little bit more clarity about what we're trying to accomplish and help you with.
Nissan.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Living in Boulder County and in Boulder for Congregation B'nai Shalom, obviously we don't have the same kind of incentives that are there for the city of Denver. We don't know here in Boulder County if there's going to be similar incentives arise from the program as initiated by the city of Denver. So right now, there are not a lot of incentives and grants that are available in order for us to pursue this. Everything is really individually funded at this time in Boulder. Is there any information whatsoever that the Denver program is going to be modified or adopted and modified by other major cities in Colorado?
I don't know what's coming down for other cities in Colorado. I do know that there will be, state level, there will be more state and federal level incentives programs that will be happening. And then, we'll try to keep track of those and share those as we go.
Thank you.
The biggest incentives are most likely going to be from Xcel Energy and the federal government. So, let's say that the system size is appropriate for your institution is $100,000, just to keep the numbers easy, right? I can divide 100 into percentages pretty easily. You'd get, if you had a third-party ownership, some limited special purpose partnership that was taxable, then there's $48,000 roughly coming back to that entity, reducing the cost. So now your $100,000 system is $52,000. And then if you happen to be on demand billing to start with, now you're going to get rebate money from Xcel Energy for 20 years, in addition to the savings. So there are programs available, even if they're not Boulder specific. Those are more powerful. The numbers are larger than what Denver is offering anyway. So I wouldn't be, you're correct that Boulder doesn't currently have anything, where there have been other times in history when Boulder has had programs and Denver had nothing, and it's just reversed at the moment, but it's not a reason not to engage in tikkun olam as soon as you're able to.
So I think I think we probably will close in a moment. I will just share that I really, for Colorado Jewish Climate Action, right? Our goal is, one is to provide support and assistance to organizations as they go through the process of upgrading their buildings, right? And to help you save money and become more efficient. It's also to set an example for our community and for the broader community of taking responsibility and really doing our part to address the climate crisis. Which really, as we've seen, as we're watching, Hawaii burn and hurricanes hit California, we really are in a sense of crisis. So this work is like, oh my God, how do I understand a city ordinance? But it also is important to remember that this is important, and sacred work that we are doing in our communities. So hopefully we can get some of these projects completed, but also really think about how doing this work and doing it with the attitude of that this is part of our responsibility as a community will inspire our communities and the broader communities that we that we want to influence. So with that, I can hang around for a little bit more and chat, but thank you so much for joining, and we will continue to be in touch. And please fill out that survey and start looking for your Xcel energy bills. And we look forward to working with you moving forward as you complete these projects. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Moshe, and everyone.